Congress. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the U.S. could hit its debt limit by next Thursday, January 19th. Yellen told House Speaker Kevin McCarthy that the Treasury will have to take extraordinary measures to avoid a default. She warned that with no action, the U.S. could default on its debt by early June. Jared Bernstein is a member of the White House Council of Economic Advisors, and he joins us now. Jared, thank you so much for being here. For all of us non-economists out there, what is the significance of the debt ceiling? Why is the government being able to borrow money important, and how does that affect average Americans?
Well, let's start with the latter point and about the effect to average Americans, because I just think it's hard to convey just how damaging and devastating this will be to the U.S. economy and even the global economy. Here's a quote from the letter that Treasury Secretary Yellen sent up to the Hill today. Failure to meet the government's obligations would cause irreparable harm to the U.S. economy, the livelihoods of all Americans, and global financial stability. And I will tell you that we're hearing similar kinds of comments from the Chamber of Commerce and groups on all sides of the political aisle. The reason for that, to get to your question, is that if we don't raise the debt ceiling, the U.S. is unable to meet its spending obligations. Obligations, to be very clear, that this Congress has already agreed upon. These are past, prior spending obligations, including paying the debt to our bondholders, but also Social Security, paying our military, paying for the agencies that inspect our food and our water and keep our planes moving. So, at any rate, that's just a thumbnail sketch of what's at stake here.
And Jared, I mean, spell out for me the worst case scenario, right? How do the ripple effects work? Let's say that we somehow are no longer in a place where the government can pay its debts. How does that spread out? How does that affect the global markets? Why is it that we're this central pillar and the debt limit, could damage it?
Well, we happen to be the largest and one of the most important economies in the world. Of course, our debt is considered, our sovereign debt, meaning the debt that our government borrows when it sells treasury bonds, is considered the most safe debt in the world, the most highly respected debt in the world. But, your question is a perfectly legitimate one. But before we go there, let's just talk about the fact that the debt ceiling has been raised 80 times in recent decades. The debt ceiling was raised 3 times in a bipartisan manner under President Trump. So sure, we can talk about worst case scenarios, and I think it's a valid question. I'll get into it with you. But we shouldn't even be considering going there as if that's some sort of a viable possibility. We have an economy that, thanks to President Biden's economic plans, is really helping a lot of people, particularly through the strongest job market in 50 years. We're seeing improvements on the inflation front, more to go there, but we're seeing some movement in the right direction. The idea that Congress, and we know that it's the House Republicans that are making these noises, would undermine that by failing to raise the debt ceiling that's been raised, as I mentioned, dozens and dozens of times throughout history, is it's just malpractice is what it is.
Let me ask you a question about that then. I mean, we're seeing certainly the words debt limit used in political circles more and more, right? So House Leader Kevin McCarthy was on Fox this week, and he said this about the debt limit. Have a look at this.
One of the greatest threats we have to this nation is our debt. It makes us weak in every place that we can. We have never been at this high of debt to GDP except during World War II. And what are we funding? Wasteful Washington spending much of the time.
For those of us at home, right, the idea of having debt sounds like a very, very bad thing. And what he's saying there seems calculated to try and strike that kind of nerve. What I want to ask you here is he right? Does our debt as a nation make us weak?
Not at all. First of all, the key point there, though, and I'll answer your question, but I think the House Leader is engaging in a kind of sleight of hand there in the following sense. If Kevin McCarthy and the House Republicans believe that we should lower the debt, they have every right and even every obligation to their constituents, if that's their position, to write new spending bills, future spending bills that reduce our debt, either raise revenues or cut spending. That's absolutely their prerogative. But raising the debt ceiling is necessary to pay spending obligations for which we have already agreed, okay? funding our military, paying our Social Security recipients, paying our bondholders. These are debts. These are obligations that Congresses, this Congress and other Congresses, have already endorsed, have already signed off on. It's exactly analogous to having your dinner at the restaurant and saying, I'm not going to pay for this meal because there have been too many meals that we've been having lately. It's just really a non sequitur. Again, if they want to take action on further spending to reduce the debt, go ahead and introduce bills. Joe Biden has shown that deficit reduction is something he's pretty good at, 1.7 trillion over his first couple of years. But not paying current obligations, that's unacceptable.
Jared Bernstein of the White House Council of Economic Advisors illustrating the debt limit and the dangers of walking out on the check. Jared, thank you so much.